Vanessa needs a studio for her brand, not a roommate. My father didn't even stand up to say it. He just sat there, swirling his expensive wine, while I stood in the doorway holding 2 luxury cruise tickets I had bought for them. She is actually doing something with her life, Dale continued, his voice bored. You are 29, Carenza. You are a deadweight. Get your trash out of my hallway. Go live in the streets for all I care. Maybe the cold will freeze that sour look off your face. I looked past him. My childhood bedroom wasn't a bedroom anymore. It was gutted, the walls dripping with fresh neon pink paint. My desk replaced by ring lights. My entire life was stuffed into 3 black garbage bags piled on the floor like wet leaves. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I placed the envelope with the cruise tickets gently on the hall table, a silent symbol of the vacation they just lost. Then I picked up my garbage bags and walked straight back out into the freezing night without saying a single word. I drove my beat-up sedan through the blinding snow until I found a motel with a vacancy sign flickering on the highway. The heater in the car rattled like a dying lung, blowing lukewarm air against my frozen hands. It was fitting, really. My parents hated this car. They said it was an eyesore in their driveway. They didn't know I drove it on purpose. It was camouflage. As I sat on the lumpy motel bed, listening to the wind howl outside, my mind drifted back to the root of it all. The original sin. My father called it the $5 million mistake. It happened in 1999. I was 4 years old. Dale had a meeting scheduled with a group of investors to buy into a tech startup before it went public. But that morning, I woke up with a fever of 104. I had a seizure. Dale had to miss the meeting to drive me to the emergency room. That startup exploded. The investors who made the meeting became multimillionaires. Dale did not. He never let me forget it. Every birthday, after the cake was cut, he would look at me with this hollow, resentment-filled stare and say, "You cost me $5 million, Carenza. You are starting life with a negative balance." He didn't raise a daughter. He managed a bad investment. That resentment turned into what I called the parasite tax. Since I was 16, I paid rent to live in my own house. Every paycheck from my part-time jobs was garnished. Dale called it interest on the debt. But it wasn't just rent. I was funding the golden child. Vanessa was the asset. I was the liability. When Vanessa wanted to be a model, I paid for her headshots. When she wanted to be an influencer, Bella told me I had to pay for her lip fillers and spa days because Vanessa needed to look the part to marry rich. They drained me dry, month after month, telling me I should be grateful they didn't kick me out sooner. They looked at my oversized hoodies and my messy bun and saw a failure. They saw a woman scraping by on freelance coding gigs, barely making ends meet. They were wrong. I pulled my laptop out of my bag and set it on the motel desk. The casing was scratched, but the processor inside was military grade. They thought I fixed printers for a living. They didn't know I was a financial fixer for high-stakes venture capital firms. When a company is bleeding money and cooking the books, the investors send me in. I hunt down fraud. I trace hidden assets. I find the rot in the ledger and I cut it out. I am surgical, I am ruthless, and I am very, very expensive. Last year, my base income was $650,000, not including bonuses. I could have bought their house in cash 3 times over. I could have paid off their mortgage in a single afternoon. But I didn't. I hid my money in offshore accounts and diversified portfolios. I wore thrift store clothes and drove a rusted sedan because I knew, deep down, that if they knew what I was worth, they wouldn't just bleed me, they would butcher me. I sat in the dark motel room, the blue light of the screen illuminating my face. They thought they had discarded a piece of trash. They had no idea they had just declared war on a woman who destroys financial criminals for a living. I needed to work. Work was the only thing that made sense when the rest of the world was dissolving. I reached into my bag for my laptop, the one machine that held the encrypted keys to my entire career. My hand closed around empty air. The bag was light. Too light. My stomach dropped so hard I felt dizzy. I dumped the contents onto the motel duvet. Chargers, cables, a hard drive. But the laptop, the matte black machine containing algorithms worth millions, was gone. I didn't panic. I grabbed my phone and opened the Find My Device app. I watched the little blue dot ping. It wasn't at my parents' house. It was 3 miles away, blinking steadily at a location on 5th Street. Easy cash, pawn, and loan. I drove there in a fugue state. The snow was turning to gray slush. When I walked into the shop, the smell of dust and desperation hit me instantly. I showed the guy behind the glass my identification and the serial number on my phone. He didn't even look up from his magazine. "I cannot give it to you without the ticket," he said. "Store policy. Or you can file a police report and wait 3 weeks." The ticket. I ran back out to my car. I popped the trunk and dragged out the 3 black garbage bags Dale had thrown at me. I tore them open right there in the parking lot, my hands shaking in the freezing wind. I dug through my own clothes, through old shoes and books, until I found it. A crumpled yellow slip of paper, stained with coffee grounds, wadded up inside a pair of jeans. Bella hadn't just packed me up. She had looted me. I walked back inside, smoothed the receipt on the counter, and paid $800 to buy back my own property. I sat in the front seat of my car, hugging the cold metal of the laptop to my chest. And that was when the second notification hit my phone. An email from the Department of Motor Vehicles. Notice of transfer of liability. I stared at the screen. My sedan. The car I bought with cash 5 years ago, but kept in Dale's name to save on insurance premiums because I was frugal. He had sold it online 3 hours ago. The timestamp was 20 minutes before I arrived at the house. He had sold my car while I was driving it to them. He probably used the spare key to hand it off to the buyer while I was inside being evicted. $38,000 in assets. Gone in a single night. I called Bella. She answered on the second ring, sounding annoyed, as if I were a telemarketer interrupting her evening. You stole my laptop, I said. And you sold my car. I didn't steal anything, Bella snapped. We raised you, Carenza. We put a roof over your head for 18 years. Consider that laptop a small repayment on the debt you owe us. Besides, Vanessa's party planner needed a deposit. You can always buy another computer. You are single. You have fewer expenses. She hung up. I sat there in the silence of the parking lot. The heater wheezed. The snow fell. And something inside me finally snapped shut. It wasn't a brake. It was a locking mechanism. I wiped the last tear I would ever shed for them off my cheek. I opened my laptop. The screen glowed to life, asking for a password. I stopped being Carenza, the daughter who wanted to be loved. I became Carenza, the auditor, the fixer, the woman who dissects rot for a living. I didn't need to cry anymore. I needed to run the numbers. I didn't sleep. Sleep is for people who have time to waste. And I was on a deadline. The motel room was freezing, the heater having given up hours ago. But the cold kept me sharp. I sat at the small desk, my recovered laptop humming a sound that felt like a heartbeat returning to a chest. It was time to audit the books. I logged into my professional suite. These weren't tools available to the public. These were proprietary databases used to track distressed assets and high-risk liabilities. I started with the easy part, the money from my car. I traced the sale. Dale had listed the sedan on a quick sale auction site. The transaction was finalized at 4:15 in the afternoon for $8,000. A steal for the buyer, a felony for him. I followed the money trail. It didn't go to the mortgage. It didn't go to utilities. It went to Gilded Events, a high-end party planning service. $8,000. He sold my car to pay for a chocolate fountain and an ice sculpture for Vanessa's launch party. I felt a cold, metallic taste in my mouth. They weren't just stealing from me. They were cannibalizing me to feed Vanessa's ego. I dug deeper. I ran a comprehensive asset search on Dale and Bella. I expected to find them struggling. They had been complaining about money for years, but I didn't expect to find a corpse. Their finances were dead on arrival. They had refinanced the house 3 times in 5 years. They had maxed out 4 credit cards. And the biggest red flag of all, a notice of default filed 30 days ago. They weren't just broke. They were 30 days away from foreclosure. The house, the one they kicked me out of to make room for Vanessa, wasn't even theirs anymore. It belonged to the bank, and the bank was coming to collect. But I needed a weapon. A foreclosure is sad. It's not leverage. I needed a crime. I looked at their most recent refinancing application, the one pending approval to save them from the foreclosure. I couldn't hack the bank to see it, that's movie logic. But I knew Dale. I knew his greed. I picked up my phone and called Mr. Stone, a corporate attorney who owed me a favor for saving his firm from a messy audit last year. I need a shell company, I said. Name it Vantage Holdings. Make it look like a boutique investment firm specializing in high-risk assets. And then, I need you to call Dale. This was the honeypot strategy. In my line of work, we call it feeding the hope. You don't attack a desperate animal, it bites. You offer it food, you let it get comfortable. You let it think it's safe. Mr. Stone made the call an hour later. He played the part perfectly. He told Dale that Vantage Holdings represented a private investor looking for unconventional portfolios, and that they were interested in consolidating Dale's debt to help support Vanessa's promising career. I monitored Dale's email through a shared family server he had never bothered to remove me from. I watched the bait land. Dale didn't just bite. He swallowed the hook whole. He replied within 4 minutes, gushing about his business acumen and how Vanessa was on the brink of global stardom. Mr. Stone sent the follow-up. To expedite the valuation, please forward your most recent loan application submitted to your current lender. We need to match their asset assessment. It was a standard request. If Dale had been honest, he would have hesitated. But Dale wasn't honest. He was arrogant. He believed his own lies. The email pinged in my inbox. I opened it. I scrolled past the inflated value of the house, past the understated debts. I stopped at the income section. Applicant, Dale Miller. Annual income, $85,000. Co-applicant, Vanessa Miller. Annual income, $200,000. Source, social media brand partnerships. I stared at the number. $200,000. Vanessa didn't make $200,000. Vanessa didn't make $200. Her brand was a bot-inflated Instagram account and a box of unsold t-shirts in the garage. Dale had lied to a federally insured bank to secure a loan. He had fabricated income to qualify. That is federal bank fraud. Title 18. United States Code. Section 1344. Penalty. Up to 30 years in federal prison and a $1 million fine. I saved the document. I backed it up to 3 secure servers. Dale thought he had just sent a PDF to a savior. He didn't know he had just handed the executioner his neck. I closed the laptop. The sun was coming up over the dirty snow in the motel parking lot. I wasn't just the daughter they kicked out anymore. I was the whistleblower. And I was the bank. The trap was set. Now I just had to wait for them to walk into it. Mr. Stone called Dale the next morning to confirm the meeting. He told them the silent partner, an eccentric Silicon Valley investor named Mr. V, was in town for 1 day only, and wanted to sign the papers in person. He specifically requested Vanessa be there, hinting that he was a fan of her digital aesthetic. They swallowed it. Of course they did. Their vanity was their biggest blind spot. I arrived at the law firm an hour early. I bypassed the main lobby and took the private elevator to the executive floor. Mr. Stone met me in the hallway. He didn't ask why I was doing this. He knew what fraud looked like. And he knew my reputation. He just handed me a keycard to the conference room observation deck. I sat in the dark, watching the security feed on a monitor. Dale and Bella walked in first. They were dressed in their Sunday best. Dale in a suit that was too tight around the shoulders, Bella in a dress she probably bought with the money from my car. Vanessa trailed behind them, wearing oversized sunglasses and looking bored, tapping away on her phone. They sat at the long mahogany table. Mr. Stone offered them champagne. It was complimentary, but Dale acted like he was paying for it. "This is top shelf," Dale said, leaning back in the leather chair. "Only the best for the Miller Empire." I watched him swirl his glass, same Christmas Eve posture. Arrogant. Untouchable. "So," Bella said, trying to sound casual, "when does the wire transfer hit?" "As soon as the ink is dry," Mr. Stone replied, polished as ever. "The silent partner is eager to back visionaries like you. He believes Vanessa has untapped potential." Vanessa brightened. "Did he see my latest reel? It hit 4,000 views. He saw everything," Mr. Stone said. "Which is precisely why he required the personal guarantee. He wants you fully invested in your own success." Dale chuckled, already drunk on validation. "Invested? I've put everything into this family. We're solid. This house, this brand." He spread his hands like a prophet. "It's going to the moon." He didn't read the contract. Didn't skim it. He just saw the money and the applause. He signed. Bella signed. Vanessa signed as witness. They thought they signed a loan. What they actually signed was a trap. Buried deep in the paperwork was a cross-default provision, page 42. Clause C7, stating that if any information in the application proved false, the loan would instantly default. And on page 51 sat the real kill switch. A deed in lieu of foreclosure. Signed in advance and held in escrow. If default triggered, the house title would transfer automatically to the lender, Vantage Holdings. No court battle required. A legal bear trap. Snapped shut with a pen. They signed my house over to me while drinking my champagne. In the dark observation room, I stood up and adjusted my blazer, watching my reflection in the monitor. I didn't see the girl who cried in the snow. I saw the owner. I walked down the hall toward the conference room. It was time to close. Mr. Stone gathered the documents with the efficiency of a mortician, tapping the stack into perfect alignment, sharp final sounds in a quiet room. "Excellent," he said. "Funds will be released shortly. But first, the silent partner would like to say a few words." Dale leaned back, smug. "Send him in. I'd love to shake the hand of a man who recognizes a good investment." Mr. Stone nodded toward the double mahogany doors, but didn't open them. He simply stepped aside. I pushed them open. No oversized hoodie. No thrift store jeans. I walked in wearing a charcoal suit cut like a weapon, tailored within an inch of its life. Hair pulled back. Face clean. Presence loud. Dale's smile froze mid-performance. Bella squinted like she was trying to force reality into focus. Vanessa didn't look up from her phone until the silence got too heavy to ignore. "Carenza?" Dale finally choked out. How did you get past security? He snapped at Mr. Stone. This is my daughter. She's struggling. She tracked us down for money. Call security. Mr. Stone didn't move. He just shut his briefcase, one hard snap that landed like a gunshot. I don't think that'll be necessary, I said. Calm. Boardroom calm. The voice you use when someone's hiding assets in the Cayman Islands and pretending they're untouchable. I walked to the head of the table. Dale stayed seated, but I stood over him. Then I pulled a small, crumpled yellow slip from my pocket and smoothed it on the polished wood. Bella's voice trembled. What is that? My pawn ticket, I said. For my laptop. You sold it for $800, Bella. I bought it back this morning. I paused. And then I bought something else. Dale lurched up, face flushing. Enough. You're embarrassing yourself. Get out before I... Sit down. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. The command carried the weight of someone who signs paychecks. Dale blinked, stunned, and slowly sank back into his chair. Mr. Stone, I said without looking away from my father. Show them the acquisition. The lights dimmed. A projector hummed to life. White light cut across the wall. A property deed. Property address. 1402 Oakwood Drive. Previous owner. Dale and Bella Miller. Current owner. Vantage Holdings LLC. Dale stared, squinting as if the letters might rearrange themselves into something safer. I don't understand, he stammered. That's just collateral paperwork. Correction, I said. It's a transfer of title. Dale whipped toward Mr. Stone. What is she talking about? You tricked us. You said this was a loan. Mr. Stone's expression didn't change. My client instructed me to execute a standard distressed asset acquisition. The documentation is valid. You signed the deed in lieu voluntarily. Good day. He walked out. The door clicked shut, sealing us inside a silence that suddenly felt airless. Dale pointed at me with a shaking finger. You set this up. You created that company? I am Vantage Holdings, I said evenly. And you just signed your house over to me. Bella snapped, voice cracking into panic. That's illegal. We signed a loan 30 years. I tapped the remote. The slide changed. Now the wall showed the refinancing application Dale had emailed his own proof, enlarged into a confession. I pointed at the income line. Co-applicant. Vanessa Miller. Annual income. $200,000. I looked at Dale. Vanessa doesn't make $200,000. She makes $0. You submitted false information to secure funding. That's federal bank fraud. The room went dead quiet except for the projector fan. Clause C7. I continued, reciting from memory. Cross default. Any materially false information triggers immediate default. And Clause D1 states, upon default, the deed in lieu held in escrow is released to the lender immediately. I leaned forward, palms on the table. You lied, Dad. That means the loan defaulted the second the ink dried. I let the words land. And because you defaulted, the house is mine. Right now. Dale went a sick, ash-gray color. He looked at the wall, then at me, then at Vanessa, whose mouth hung open, phone forgotten in her lap. You wouldn't, he whispered. We're your family. Family? I repeated, tasting the word like something counterfeit. Family doesn't throw you out in a blizzard. Family doesn't sell your livelihood for a party. I straightened and checked my watch. Here's the deal. You have 48 hours to vacate my property. If you're not out, or if you damage a single fixture, I hand the fraud evidence to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I slip the pawn ticket back into my pocket. 30 years, Dad. Or you leave quietly. Your choice. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Just a small, defeated man, realizing too late he wasn't playing against a daughter, he was playing against the bank. And the house always wins. They left. They actually left. Fear turned out to be a stronger motivator than loyalty. 48 hours later, the house was empty. I hired movers to clear what they abandoned, but I handled the settlement myself. I wrote a relocation check after doing the math. I deducted the market value of my stolen car, the cost to buy back my laptop, every cent of rent they charged me since I was 16. The final check was small, barely enough for a deposit on a cramped 2-bedroom on the edge of town. Word travels. Dale ended up greeting customers at a hardware store for minimum wage. Bella stared at the walls of a rental she hated. And Vanessa, the influencer, with $200,000 potential, her career evaporated when the funding stopped. She started selling designer bags online to buy groceries. Turns out you can't pay rent with likes. Before I listed the house, I walked through it one last time. It echoed. Smaller than I remembered. I paused at my old bedroom door, still painted that aggressive neon pink. Fresh paint smell lingering like a lie. I didn't repaint it. I left it as a loud, unfinished monument to their greed. Then I walked out, locked the deadbolt, and listened to the click, clean, final, satisfying. At my car, my new car. In my name, I pulled out my phone. Scrolled to their contacts. Dale. Bella. Vanessa. No goodbye. No closure speech. Just block. One by one. The silence after was absolute expensive, yes, but worth every penny. Family isn't blood. It's respect. And if they can't afford that, they can't afford you. Drop a comment and tell me where you're listening from right now. I want to see how far this story travels.